Yo, what the fuck is your fucking problem, Jake? No, seriously. Oh. I mean, hey. How you doing, pal?
Hey.
Good to see you guys.
Hi, dude. Hi, dude.
I treasure you guys, and I treasure our friendships.
So are we gonna do this or what?
You gonna do this or what?
Look at this.
I think I'm seeing inside of Mark's soul right now.
One more. There we go. I think I have what I need. There we go.
Smoke on the mountain. Snow on the mountain.
This writing process has been kind of similar to Periphery 3. It's been kind of slow and relaxed. I would say even more relaxed than that session. So we're feeling pretty good about where the songs are at right now. I'd say we're about 70% done with the sort of instrumentation being written. We just have to arrange it with Spencer and flesh things out a little bit.
What's up, Spencer? Long time no see. Yeah, long time no see. That's not what I meant to do. I meant to do this. So you could do. I think that was sick. Yeah.
Really? I love the way the scream held out over that and the intensity of like the groove that's not a backbeat. Going with the screams being held out over it though, I felt like there was so much intensity in that.
Let's do this. Because I like the way your vocals coming on that.
I do like I love it.
Usually, Jake, Mark, and I will get in a room, we'll get our ideas out, try and flesh them out. We'll get an arrangement that works instrumentally, but that we won't commit to, because obviously that doesn't always translate to vocals, as we've learned over many years. And we'll just try to get a flow. You know, you get the sense of parts, and sometimes the arrangement won't change that much. Sometimes it will drastically change, but we just go in and try to get as many ideas out on as many songs, and then we'll show them to Matt and Spencer, and we'll see what sort of inspires everybody. I think one of the big things is seeing what inspires Spencer, because he has to write vocals to it. Let's see what part we're like, okay, from this point we're good, and then we need a starting point and get
So you wrote a killer chorus.
And that chorus, when we wrote it, we were just flowing stuff. So that chorus only appears once, because it's like, we don't know if that's going to be the chorus.
The way I was trying to structure it was to make it happen twice. And like the second time it was like a double chorus and like all the shit was happening with it.
Yeah.
We have a solid 9 tracks, and the structures of the songs, we have, I'd say about 75% of the vocals at least demoed. There's ideas and gibberish that we put on the tracks to kind of form some sort of map on how they will sound melodically.
I don't like that chord. Can't find a chord.
It usually starts with a riff. Somebody comes up with a riff that's interesting just on its own. And I think when you have that, whoever's in the room also gets inspired by it if it's truly, a good riff or at least something that's like a something to jump off from. And we're like, okay, well, what if we did a section like this? Or Mark will be noodling on something that's in the key and tempo, and our ears will perk up and we'll be like, oh, record that. And it's kind of like this hot seat situation, because if somebody has an idea, then they come and sit in this chair and lay it down, and then we see how we can arrange these pieces and to form an idea.
This is the first record where everybody has lived in a different location completely. We're all in different cities. So we've had to really plan a lot of the writing sessions to where we can all be in the same place at the same time. Some people are flying in, some people are driving in, but there is a very particular time commitment that's involved with these writing sessions. We have to set and stick to deadlines. We made an active decision to take this whole year off from the road, so that we didn't feel any pressure to fit this record in between tours.
So we're here at Magpie Cage Studios in Baltimore, which has this huge sounding live room. It's just fantastic. And we're recording Matt's amazing new drums too. We've got a more limited setup than he regularly plays, which is cool. It gives us a bit more room to work around and experiment with perhaps a few cymbal choices that we haven't typically had. Just generally kind of big rock drum tones. So we've got a kind of regular recording rig that I use. We've got these lovely Josefa mics on the toms. We've got a Shure B57, like an old one on the snare. We've got my favorite overheads, these Neumann KM 184s. I mean, there's just a bunch of close mics up on the drums to capture every detail as close as we can, because it's crucial to catch all the nuances of Matt's drumming, and it'd be such a shame to have to use samples or other trickery to bring that out. So just as many mics as we can get on to all of the different kit pieces, down to tiny little 6-inch splash cymbals like that.
P3, I was using a 10-inch tom and a 12-inch tom, 14, 16, and I've settled on this setup, which is a 13-inch tom, 16-inch floor, 18-inch floor. And then the kick drum is the standard size I like to play. I like to play a 22 by 16, and it's just nice and boomy. We're using a number of snare drums on this record, but this particular one is actually, it was made custom by this company called VK, it stands for Van Cleef. Probably weighs about 60 pounds, pretty gnarly, but it sounds incredible. It's 5 mil cast bronze, so it's pretty thick, and it's 6 inches in depth and 14, so it's pretty standard to what I normally play as far as like size of snare drum. We have the Pearl Sensitone snare, which is a black brass with a nice kind of bead around the center. And then this one is a Pearl reference brass snare drum. It's not heavily vented like that custom one. So if you want full body and you want ring and like a really powerful attack, you're gonna get that out of this drum, and it's been very useful for this record so far. Hi-hat splash, crashes, ride, China, and stack. And then recently I've just started messing around with different things. For P3 I added another left crash, and this one kind of changes. So this one's a 18-inch extra thin hammered, but sometimes I'll put up a 20-inch. These just came out actually the same time that my stack came out. So Benny Greb, who's another vinyl artist, phenomenal drummer, put out these, they're called crasher hats. So it's just a small kind of just set hi-hat setup that sounds really like a stack, but you can do a lot with it. It's a cool effects symbol, and then you can also you can ride on it and play grooves with it, so it's pretty sick.
Cool. So, should we go from 2 bars into the epic choir part? Sorry about that, I couldn't hear you, but I think you said yes?
Yes, if you can bring in the music.
Yeah.
Nolly, even though he's not in the band anymore, he's still a band member, in a ton of ways. He doesn't tour with us. He's not actively involved on a day-to-day basis. But when it comes to recording, he is as much of a band member as anybody else. We all trust him to help us make decisions on the songs, on the parts, on getting the best takes, engineer the sessions, kind of be a nice moral support for me.
The drum sounds that Periphery requires and has typically had always need to be kind of right on the cusp of what's possible with real drums. We kind of want these exceptionally powerful drum tones, but as much as possible we want to try and achieve them through natural means, so not using too much sample replacement. But at the end of the day, we just want the sound to be as powerful as it can be while still maintaining the nuances of Matt's drumming too. I think some of the attention when we're recording has to be put on, how consistently the drums are being hit, how hard the drums are being hit. And I mean, Matt does hit really hard and consistently, but we're always aiming for that kind of upper level. I think we've got what we need, but if you want to do another one?
No, that's fine. I think we got it.
Well, we've absolutely got it.
Alright, cool.
Sick.
Check, check, check. There it is. Whoo! Check, check. Hey! Get the levels right. Okay. And I think I have like a low octave underneath the where he let. Lyrically, this is a bit less personal. I think I had a lot more fun writing this time around, having longer. Usually I only have 2 or 3 months, or maybe sometimes less, to write vocal parts of the record. And this time I had, God, it must have been 6 or 7 months to do it. And Misha even came over on some of the songs, and we dicked around together and came up with some really cool stuff together. So it was a bit more of a collaborative effort and a lot more time to just sit back and see what felt right. And, sometimes certain parts didn't feel right, and then I had the time to go back and change them.
And what we've done a little differently this time, which has been great, is Spencer and I have been working on the vocals very efficiently. He'll sort of set up the song with an arrangement that he thinks works, or we might do it in advance here, and he'll sort of get a roadmap of what he thinks the song should be.
So Billy, he's a father.
Today we're tracking the last song that needs to be tracked, which is coincidentally the first track on the record. It's 15 minutes long, and saved it for last just because it's kind of like the tough one to tackle. But I've tracked everything else myself in my own studio setup, but this one I've gotten the help of Ernie and Taylor on, just to kind of alleviate some of the stress of doing a 15-minute long song.
Somebody needs a reaction to stay on the ground!
Yeah. Doesn't it sound a little bit too nasally to you? Okay.
Somebody needs a reaction to stay on the ground! With every breath that we take, we hear that sound!
You can do better.
With every breath that we take!
we've worked together for so many years, so when I step into the studio with somebody like that, he knows what I want. He knows when it's a good take because he knows what I'm looking for. You know, after all these years, like, you know, he's been tracking me and comping my takes, and he knows the kind of effects I want, so he always has the tracks ready, set up, and we'll just slide whatever needs to go where.
Okay, one more. Nice.
This is the Sony C800G microphone. Pretty badass microphone. It's a tube mic, and it's got this like cooling system on the back, so that it's got a tube in it, and this keeps the tube cool so it doesn't overheat. Yeah, this mic is pretty much centered for vocals. A lot of rappers and pop artists use it because it's so bright and like nice in the top end. But I think it sounds sick on every kind of voice.
So Billy heeds the call of fathers. Father.
Yeah, you gotta get crazy on that.
Heeds the call of fathers. One more time. Heeds the call of fathers. It's the call of fathers.
That's sick.
Yeah, it sounds great.
Let me hear the rest of this.
So Billy heeds the call of
I would love to see myself doing this, 10, 15 years from now. This is my passion, what I'm doing in Periphery, and it allows me to step outside the box. And with this project, it allows me to kind of just shoot for the fucking stars with it, and it's weird to the max, and we can just explore all these creative options. Is there any way you'd be able to?
And I'll have more Stardust. Yeah, I'll have more Stardust later.
Do you have close to 15,000? That's how much you need for a special trade.
Let me see. What's the best way to get a ton of Stardust?
Just catching Pokemon. And if you have a star piece in your inventory, that doubles all the Stardust you have.
How do you get a star piece?
You should have one. They give them to you every time you graduate a level. So you should have a couple. Damn.
Spencer, to save space, I also deleted my pineapple berries and the golden raspberries.
Yo, another magic card.
No, oh my god.
Yeah, there's another magic card.
I said it's spawning.
Pineapple that fucker.
Oh, I said because it's raining.
One all fucking hard.
Yeah, dude, fucking A. You have so many incubators. That's awesome.
Oh, damn, I've got a ton too. Should I do them all by...
Just, we're going on a little Pokemon walk. We have 5 band members, and this gentleman is joining us. And we just did a raid up the street. Now we're going to do another raid a couple blocks away.
Oh, yeah.
Right now I gotta catch a Ditto again. This is gonna suck.
Where's the Ditto? Where's the Ditto?
Oh, it's disguised as regular cum Pokemon.
Yeah, I like just random.
It'll let her up too, so.
Yeah.
See, but more than likely it'll show up at the same place. Got about... Damn it.
He's attacking too much.
Damn, it was
It was a waste.
Dude, I can't catch it. Yeah,
Ugh.
being
Pretty sick, right?
Yeah, very.
And our album's 62 minutes long. So we didn't do the
45-minute album again.
How quickly
We fucked up
45
again.
turns into 62.
That's what happened last time. We went 45 and it became like 64.
Yeah.
With the orchestral elements on Periphery 4, generally what happens is Misha will compose the various instruments in the arrangement, and then once each layer is done being composed, then it's sent over to Randy Slaw.
My name's Randy Slaw. I'm a producer, composer, arranger from Salt Lake City, and I am producing the choir and live orchestrations on Periphery 4. I do a lot of the orchestration work for artists like Devin Townsend, Architects, Tesseract, and this is my third record I've done with Periphery. Our first collaboration was Have a Blast, and I did a lot more extensive orchestration work with Misha on P3.
Randy Slaw has been part of the Periphery circle since Periphery 2. And he did such a good job with the orchestra on that record that we've had him involved on albums basically since 2011.
I've been working with the band remotely, just via Dropbox, phone calls, email. They'll send over the parts they've written, and it's my job essentially to decide which parts we'll do with a quartet or with an 8-piece ensemble or with a solo violin, or how big of a choir section to use, how much stacking we should do. Choir sessions are always some of my favorite recording sessions to produce because you get so many talented people in a room together who are always so enthusiastic about the music you're recording that the energy is always just awesome. I'll arrange the parts on my home setup and transcribe everything to sheet music. I've got a contact list of some of my go-to string players, brass players, and vocalists that I've worked with in the past that I'll reach out to.
To ocean, we own your every need.
You can use software orchestra. You can get some amazing stuff out of that these days, and you would be surprised what's real and what's fake when you listen to an orchestral section or an orchestral song. But there is something that I think the trained ear can pick up on, and Randy, I feel like, nails that.
I'll usually track my orchestral stuff at a studio here called Solarium, just south of Salt Lake. They've done a lot of film scores here, and it's got this amazing live room. It's perfect for doing orchestral stuff. In the same way that you would layer live drums with samples for reinforcement, we usually do a mix of live strings layered with Misha's program strings, just to give more of a richer, kind of more full sound.
So I'm back in the UK now, in my hometown in Bath, and now I'm tracking the bass. Typically when we've done Periphery albums, I've been there with the guitarists when they're doing their thing, and the bass has kind of been the last thing that we get to out of each song, and it's nice this time to not be thinking about anything apart from bass. I can just come up to here to my old home studio and just work my way through the songs. I've got all the demo bass parts that Misha and the guys recorded when they were demoing the song, so I'll figure out what the bass is doing through each part. Having done the drum tracking and heard the demos for a long time, I kind of know how they go, but I guess just cast a more close ear onto what's going on.
Yeah, Nolly's role is unique, and I have trouble explaining it to people, even when they ask me now. People say, oh, Nolly left your band. Well, who's playing bass? Nolly. And I say, well, he left your band. He is not in the band, obviously. He left, and since then, we've sort of agreed to have him on in this external role, where he'll mix the album, and he'll be involved in the engineering of the drums. But most importantly for the guitar players, he'll be in charge of playing the bass.
Nolly developed a bass sound for our band that cannot be replaced. And that's part of the reason why we haven't replaced him with another band member. He really defined a sound that has stuck with our music, and I don't think anyone would feel right not having him perform the bass parts on this record, and on any record going forward.
Tone-wise, I guess I've been aiming at a similar thing for most of my time as a bassist, just kind of achieving it in different ways. But in general, the idea is I want my bass guitar to sit alongside the electric guitars and just kind of be like this pitched down version with heavy distortion and like a load of growl to it. It's kind of part of this this effect that you get when you have just the right kind of distortion on your bass, that it melds in with the guitars and creates this perfect kind of, I always describe it as like a V, like you have your rhythm guitars here and then the bass sitting down beneath, and it's all kind of one great big instrument. So for this record I've been using my Dingwall NG2 series basses and NG3 as well. It's just really easy to do long days of tracking with them. Plus I just really love how particularly this white bass sounds. It's always been a winner for me, this one. So this one's seen a lot of action on the album, as well as the blue bass there, which is currently minus a pick guard. And between the two basses I can get all the notes I need on this record. I've just been recording direct using this Radial J48 DI box. And then after the fact, I've got all sorts of goodies like this Dark Glass Microtubes X7 pedal, which is amazing. Got this KSR amp, which has been doing really well for me recently, so that'll probably see a bit of action as well, just to get the bass tone sounding really angry and gritty.
Oh damn, 9 super potions for that.
Whoa, you can get 12 rare candy? It works.
Gotcha.
Well, I got him.
The other thing is doing it right after the attack. That also works.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't guarantee it, it just increases your catch rate. But I have noticed, I was kind of like skeptical, but I noticed that, you know where I noticed it? Was like with the regular balls would catch a lot of stuff that they shouldn't be able to catch.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm just gonna power it up right now.
Yeah. Cool.
It gets pretty packed on the weekends. Yeah. But I always just go there and take over the gym. Because I'm cool.
Oh, there's a gym right here.
Not that kind of gym. We're talking about a real gym with Pokemon.
Not that kind of gym. Fucking incel. Just in time for tracking.
Oh, finally.
We've got our the Darius strings, and I'm glad because these strings are just better than the other strings.
Well, Misha, seeing as we've been proud endorsers for going on 9 years now, well, I don't think there's a better string on the market.
You know, I'll have to agree with you, Mark. You've been a guitarist in the band for a long time, in my band Periphery. Well, our band Periphery, where Jake is also a guitarist. And it's interesting, all three of us use the Darius strings. I just find that they're the best.
I agree, Misha.
Okay, I agree with you too. Jake, would you agree with us?
Oh, absolutely.
How do you feel about the Darius strings, Jake?
They enhance my life in all of the quality ways that you'd expect.
Well, look who decided to join us. Sleepyhead McGillicuddy.
Sneaky Gary. You know what else I like doing?
And that's a wrap, guys. We're done. That was the last thing we needed to track. Album done.
Where's the
And Jeff was here to catch that moment. How special.
So we're on day 5 right now of guitar tracking, and everything's going well so far. We spent the first 2 days simply getting guitar tones, experimenting with different setups, different amps, different cabs.
So for the guitar tone, we're doing things a little bit differently this time. And it's really just to maximize flexibility. With Nolly not being here for tracking, I'm kind of responsible for it. Honestly, a little nervous about it. It's not my favorite thing to do. Honestly, I always love the creative side more than the engineering side of things. So I'm trying to be as meticulous as possible and leave as many doors open so that on the mixing side, Nolly can work with what we send him. These are load boxes here, which basically allow you to plug in an amp into your computer. They all sound a little different, so we were experimenting with that. We may reamp on our end here after we track, but we're capturing DIs on the front end using this radial box here, which is what I've used for a little while now. It's just very clean. Basically the idea with that is that it should sound exactly the same as if you were just plugging straight into the amp. So that's XFX 2. So the intention is to capture the best tone on the way in, something that we think would be okay with signing off on, but we have the DI ready to go so that if we aren't happy or we feel like, oh, we could do better by the time we're done, we'll have the takes there, and we just have to reamp it, and we have, as you can see, no shortage of amps and effects to play around with. Whichever one you like the best, pick one out of the load boxes and compare that to the XFX ones.
We spent time in the very beginning of this recording session experimenting with tones and, you know, going back and forth between the Axe effects and real amps and picking guitars to use and kind of figuring out how everything sounds and where it will be appropriate on the album. And we tend to use a wide variety of stuff between amps and guitars. So it's pretty fun because we get to utilize all the gear that we use live.
Trying to have the sound is going to be as accurate as possible, but sound is physics. Square rooms are not great. They cause a lot of reflections. Reflections are bad. I've got this room correction software, which is sort of the last step. So you want to have good monitors that are accurate, you want to have treatment, and then you want to have room correction software, which ideally does the last step. And this is literally a microphone. It's going to send out these pulses, and it'll basically, using, I think, sonar, like give a sense of the room and how the reflections work, and then there's an algorithm in there that'll correct for that. Okay. But it should be ideally as a flat line, right? But that's all stuff that like isn't too egregious. There's a weird drop off there. It must be the carpet. I think what's happening at the high end is what's called comb filtering by the carpet. It's just sort of like slowly. These are acting like little diffusers, and they're just absorbing all the high frequencies. You know, we have 3 weeks, basically. You know, the guitar's done. It's more than enough time. But, you know, I think every other time, Nolly's been there for the tracking, and I've liked it. I don't really like tracking guitars, like being in charge of that. It's kind of nice to just handle the creative and then let someone else handle this part. I'm going to do the best job that I can. It's a lot of tedious work, stuff I don't enjoy, but we're just trying to figure the logistics out for all that stuff. You want to try some? You want to try ravioli or a pizza slice, Jakey?
Oh, sure. Roll up on that.
Yeah, now you guys are hungry.
Oh, hungry?
Oh, hungry.
What you looking with here? What? Let me see what you got, you little shit. Oh, goddamn. Rest in peace, you little.
I dig that. What do you think about that guitar tone?
It's fucking awesome.
Where
dude.
did Mr. Mackey go? He's on a phone call?
Probably on a phone call. Want me to call him? Hey,
Oh,
Mark?
No, it's all good. The important members are here.
It's
Fine. Keep doing what you're doing.
What's that?
You want to just tell us if you like the sound of this?
Yeah.
So you're happy with moving this for?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like,
sweet.
working on getting the right tone. Something that's of course satisfying and heavy to play. Something that works for this type of music to capture that sort of aggression, that pissed off quality. But also something that tracks well as far as bigger chords and having clarity when it comes to things that are more open.
They probably
We're making progress already.
Look at that.
Triple X. Is there a
My
solo?
favorite movie.
Sounding cool.
Our ability to work together as a band, we seem to have this process down pretty smooth as far as getting in a room, living together for a couple weeks to write the record, and then finally getting together to record it. Compared to our early days, take for example Periphery 2, it couldn't be more different as far as the process goes. In fact, when I think more about those days, it's hard to believe that this is the same band.
Like not get ready.
It's really cool having this group of guys together in a room because sometimes when one of us is struggling with something, we can just be like, yo, can you figure this out? We just hand the guitar off, or somebody just has the edge when it comes to tracking parts, so it's just like, even if you wrote the riff, somebody else might track it because it makes it go faster, and we can get a workflow going.
It'll be an easy solo.
It makes the process so much more efficient when I have Mark and Jake. Being two people that I really trust to bounce ideas off of, because it's so easy to second guess yourself. And they'll speak their mind. So there's a lot of stuff they'll be like, no, it's not quite right. It really helps to have at least one other person to bounce ideas off of.
We've definitely gotten a lot more relaxed now, and I think that we're better at compromising with each other and hearing each other out. Back in 2010, 2011, on some tours, we would, argue about things and it'd be, no, fuck you, like, I want it my way. And now everybody's matured a lot, and we're able to take a step back and kind of analyze things in a rational way. I guess that's just part of growing up.
We certainly appreciate when the fans love the music that we write. We certainly appreciate when it resonates with them, when they sing it back to us live, when it fires them up and they get excited. I mean, that's so important when it comes to the live show and the energy that's moving between us as the band and the audience there. But our intention isn't to write music to please anybody else but ourselves. And in that sense, we chose the songs that we did for this record because they resonated with us. And if we can all perform to our highest ability in recording those songs, then I think we'll have reached our goal, which is to create something that is timeless for us. We want something that's going to outlast touring, outlast the band in some ways. When you make an album, that's there forever. So I think that is the intention, is to make something for ourselves that we will always have. No matter where we go, what we do, and how long we live, we'll have this thing that we can be very proud of. And that's the goal.
Guided in the birds, head down in the soil we are. upon the bury alive. Things of